Hello, this is Elise Spudke on creating online student introductions. So first, our objectives. First objective is to learn about how to introduce students to a course. Second is what should be in an introduction. Third, how to make an introduction. So the first thing we'll start off with actually is a pre-survey. Please take 3 minutes, as listed, to answer these questions informally. What do you hope to learn from this presentation? Do you know the top trouble students have in online classes? How do you plan to introduce students to your course? What have you done in the past? So let's go ahead and take 3 minutes, starting now. Okay, so now that we've finished our pre-survey, I would want you to keep that off to the side, and we'll come back to that later on. So first, introductions. What do we mean by an introduction to a course? So, an introduction to a course should be more than just reading the syllabus. So when you begin a class, think about the last time you had the very first day of a course. Did you go and just read the entire syllabus to the course? Not normally, right? For one, you're going to lose the attention of your students very quickly when they realize that you're just reading them a document that you've already given them, most likely in whatever form of online course program that you're using. So you want to make it somewhat interactive and not just reading at them. You want to include them. Because, while yes, most of the students are not going to maybe read the syllabus, but they could, right? And then you want to, like I said, make it interactive. So, what should be included in an introduction? Aspects that should be covered are what type of assignments there will be, homework, readings, quizzes, tests, papers, projects, group work, etc. What books and/or programs will be used. So what's important to think about here is what is important for the students to know. What do they need to know right from the very beginning? If they don't start doing something or know about something of the course, what could put them behind from maybe even the very first week of the course? Is there a book that you didn't have in the syllabus or wasn't being sold in the bookstore? Or is there a program that they need to get familiar with and start using right away? Is there a first day quiz? Is there some program that they need to set up for their homework? All of these aspects are very important to students and for students to know. So, how to make an introduction? What type should we make or do? So it's important to think about what is important in your course. What type of aspects would you want to emphasize? And I know this specific presentation is for online classes, but it is important to consider the online versus in-person aspects. So, in an in-person course, well, we're interacting with the students face to face. That already gives us one kind of leg up on online classes because we're able to directly see our students, the ones that come to class at least. So this already gives us an important aspect that has interaction, that they can directly ask questions. They feel more comfortable coming to see you in your office possibly because they already interact with you in class or maybe just talking to you before or after class. So all of these things should be utilized. Otherwise, specifically for the introduction, you should use all types of media and whatever's available to you in your classroom as much as possible. Whatever does not distract from the course information that you're trying to instill in your students. So, with the media that we have available in most classrooms, it is important to have a visual of all the important aspects of a class. So this means not just talking about maybe a program that you're going to use. Have it projected on a screen. Actually go into the program that you're going to be using and show the students little aspects, how to do something. Now, don't be discouraged when they ask you how to do it later on. They need to have actually seen it first to just kind of have an introduction and just a visual. So now it's kind of in their brain, right? But then they come back to ask us when they actually need to use it, and it's not something new. They maybe knew where to look, but they just forgot or missed one little aspect or detail that you can then show them, but you already know they know what you're talking about, right? Because you did this introduction in the very beginning of the class. Or maybe you had a student that adds late. That also creates a different issue that now this student doesn't know where really to start because they missed possibly that entire first week of the course that can be the most fundamental of how you start the course. So it's very important to have a visual, like we said. Show how to get to assignments. What are the assignments, right? What types of assessments will you use? Are there projects? Are there quizzes? Are there tests? Is there just a midterm and a final? Are there papers? Are there group projects? Are there in-class work that needs to be done? And then also, it's important to have any books that you're going to be using available for the students to see, and maybe take a picture of the cover or take a picture of the ISBN number. It's also important to have those aspects posted on any course program that you're going to be using, such as Blackboard or Canvas or any other types that you might be using, Top Hat. So now let's talk about the differences that an online classroom has. So in an online classroom, you are starting out at a disadvantage that you do not directly interact with your students. Now maybe you have online like chat room classes almost, or conferences with the students. That does give you some level of interaction, but it is still different from a true in-person class. These students, while invested in putting time in by coming to that conference or chat room or just online lesson, they still are not directly interacting with their fellow students or with you. So that kind of leaves the level of interaction of the course that you're missing out on already just by being online. So let's talk again about an introduction. Let's think about the aspects that we said were important in an in-person class. We said visuals were important, having maybe going into the programs that you're using on the projector and showing any books that you'll be using. The same could be said for online courses. So visuals are still very important. Visuals are one of, if not the best way for most students to be able to see what is expected of them. So when you have an online course, one of the best ways is maybe to create some form of introduction that they can look at or watch or just see at their own pace or when they need to. So yes, it is important for them to see it at the beginning of the course, like we said, to have a good starting point, right? And know what is expected of them. But they will then be able to maybe go back and look at it later on, like we said in an in-person course, where they would then maybe re-ask you a question on how to do something. So this is kind of their way of being able to ask you a question. They can, of course, still contact you, but like we said, the level of interaction is missing, and so they usually don't feel as comfortable just contacting an instructor in an online course. If you don't make yourself as available and represented to them, it can make it a little bit harder for them to feel that level of comfort. So, like we said, it's a little bit detracted from an in-person course because you're not face-to-face. So it's important to create a connection with your students early on in whatever way possible. If that's a discussion board introduction of just the basics, what program you're in, what are you taking this class for, what do you hope to get from this class, those kind of aspects, just a discussion board. But as this presentation is about, creating an introduction into your course. So the introduction is your first chance to make that connection with each student. So let's look at an example introduction. So this is an introduction created for an online pre-calculus course. So this course as you can see, uses Canvas, and the instructor, myself, has created a video going through all the different aspects of the course. So going through the program that's going to be used, or programs possibly, right? And then the kind of way the video is made can be important as well. So as we see in this video, there is a box at the bottom right corner showing the professor. That kind of adds a level again of that face-to-face. Well, yes, it's kind of a facsimile of it. It's not a true representation, but it's as much as you can get almost in an online course. So let's watch through this introduction, and we'll pause throughout and talk about what has been done and maybe why it's important and what courses it could be important in. Hi everyone, so this is the kind of introduction to the course and its setup. So as we can see, we're at the kind of home page for our Canvas course, and as we can see here, we have announcements, the syllabus, quizzes, modules, discussions, conferences, and so on. So I see a few more things than you guys do, but bear with me. So how the course is going to be set up is that you will have kind of weekly lecture videos that you will need to watch. It will be set up that there will be quizzes based on the material. So in Canvas, just kind of, that's your participation credit for the course, or kind of your roll call or attendance almost, if you will, for an online course. That's the kind of alternative version that we have. So those will just be something like, what was the answer of example 3? Or what color did I use for example 5? Or something like that. It'll always be different questions, so you will basically just be saying, I watched the entire video before I answered this quiz. So those will show up how we get to the lecture material. That will show up in modules. Now, normally you won't see all of this right away, but we're looking at the entire course just so that we see what it will and kind of can look like. So the lecture videos will be under a specific tab here. As you can see, sorted by order, okay? They may not be in the same order as you see now, but this is the general setup of the course. If we click on a section, so let's try the first section, we see here that we have a media site login. Go ahead and do that. It's just your FAU ID. We log into that, and we see that once it opens, that it is just a video. Let me refresh that. Also notice down here, the PowerPoint for your notes, let's just pull that open. It's essentially the slides that I am writing on for the lecture video, so that you don't need to write every single thing down. I've already kind of laid it out for you. You just need to write notes and maybe write out the examples and so on and follow along with the lecture video. So they're all of different varying lengths. This one you can see only has 7 pages. Some of them are a little longer, but this is the lecture video. You can see this one is 27 minutes. They're of varying lengths. Some of them go up to 40 minutes, a full, almost like 50-minute lecture. Some of them are only 15 or 12. It just depends on the section and how much time I feel I need to spend on it. So let's go back to modules then. So those will be the lecture videos. Those lecture videos, like we said, will have quizzes on them. They will show up here in the quiz tab. Notice they're not showing up
right now, okay? But we do have a syllabus quiz. Make sure to go ahead and take that as well at the very beginning of the course. I'm going to make that kind of mandatory, so you have to do that first, okay? It's just going in and saying basically you understand the course setup and that kind of you're responsible for the due dates and everything in that sort. Okay, so from there, let's go to the syllabus. So, again, like we said, this is kind of an old course setup, right, for this spring.
Now notice we're looking at a previous term's kind of setup. This can help because you can show the full effect of the course, or you can kind of very forwardly set up the course that you're going to make the introduction for, and then use that actual courses page. It's all dependent on what would show up, if there's maybe changes that would happen, and if the previous term's course is going to be very similar or not. It can help to show a currently kind of fully existing version though, so do keep that in mind when you're creating your own introductions.
The syllabus you see is right here. Again, we can pull it up. There will be a few changes, so don't get too hung up on this version of it that I'm showing. And you can scroll through here or download it. Then I will also include a grade calculator where you can just kind of input your grades and it tells you where to get them from, ALEKS or Canvas and so forth. And then it will tell you kind of your percentage, and you just look up the percentage on the grading scale here. Then I will also be including a calendar view of all the different assignments, kind of when things become available, when you need to take different quizzes or tests, and so on. We'll talk about quizzes and tests and homework in just a minute.
This is again another important aspect that can be included in a course, especially shown in an introduction, is this kind of calendar view of assignments due throughout the course. It can be another good visual again.
So down here at the end of the syllabus tab, you'll see a course summary. That will show all of the different assignments and quizzes and things in Canvas only. Okay, so make sure that's not everything. All right, so now we've talked about the lectures and kind of where to get course information. Now, let's talk about where the actual material of the course will be. It will all be here under modules in the ALEKS tab on McGraw-Hill campus, and you'll only see this one tab for ALEKS. You'll click on that. It will open up the very first time into something like this. You go through here and see the different things on how ALEKS sets itself up. Then it takes you into first a tutorial. Okay, so I'm going to skip through this. You will have to go through it yourself. You won't be able to skip, unfortunately.
It can also be important to show the students their view, if at all possible, on our side of things, just so that you're not showing them kind of a conflicting information or how to get to something might change. And then you can also be careful in not showing them multiple students' information accidentally.
Then the next thing that you'll need to do is a knowledge check. Okay, so that will basically set up the course for you for the rest of the semester. Basically saying you know factoring really well or you don't, and then you need to practice it more. Okay, it's never bad to have a low score from the initial knowledge check. Okay, I'm happy if students get anywhere in the teens even. because this is literally saying you know the course material or not. So if you're taking the class, I wouldn't expect you to know the course material very much yet. So that's why I don't feel bad, basically, about low scores. Okay, so also, if you have a question that it's on something you've never seen before, you don't know what it's asking, you don't know how to do the question, don't feel bad to say, I don't know, because that's perfectly acceptable. It's maybe something that you've not done before, right? Because this is a new course. So let's go ahead and start the knowledge check. Now, there are 30 questions and it is unlimited time. So make sure to give yourself plenty of time to sit down and do this. Make sure to also sit down and do this on your own without any help from anyone or any web page or anything like that. Also, don't use a calculator, okay? Because you need to be able to do all of these topics yourself in the homeworks, in quizzes, and on the tests, okay? So you want to make sure that you know the material and that you know how to do these questions. So if we're looking here at these different questions, okay, we'll go through here, maybe saying I don't know a few times, but like I said, take your time. Okay, I'm also going to skip the knowledge check, and I'm going to have a moderate knowledge of pre-calculus. Okay.
Make sure to also be encouraging to your students throughout your introduction. So don't kind of just belabor all the different things that they're going to have to do throughout the semester, because that can be very overwhelming to the students. Tell them about, of course, the things that they will need to do, any big assignments, projects, and such, so that they have a good awareness of the course, but be encouraging in saying that, don't give yourself high expectations on something that isn't going to affect your grade that much, or maybe is showing that you just have a little bit more homework that you'll have to do, as with this initial knowledge check. So just overall, be very encouraging.
Okay, so that means moderate knowledge of pre-calc. I got a 30%. So as you can see, that's not very much, right? And that's only a moderate knowledge. So then we're just seeing the kind of different views of ALEKS, okay? Now, this is the pie tab. It shows you kind of breakdown of all the different types of things that we'll be working with and how much you know of each grouping. So you can click on a slice of the pie and get more information. So in Algebra and Geometry Review, we had a total of 17 topics. We knew 10. We have 7 remaining, and we've not learned any. Okay? Then we can also go to the timeline path. So this shows kind of for spring semester dates. So we're really close to the end, which is not good, right? To have that much left. So let's just, this is just the view of a personal timeline showing different assignments and such. So then this is what you should be working towards. What is kind of the next due thing, right? Including due dates, like I said. And then this is kind of week by week milestones. So now, homework, like I said, happens in ALEKS. How you get to homework, you can either click on Start My Path. That will take you into the next due group of objectives, okay? Taking you from this starting point, like 104 topics, to completing that remaining 237, as it shows up here in the top bar. If you don't want to click on Start My Path, you can click on this tab over here and click on Learn. That will take you also into the next due group. Now, this is the homework. It shows up here, first with an explanation, and then you can click Start. If you don't want to do this question type first, you can click on this down arrow here. It'll show you what group of information you're working on, right? What objective group. You can change that, but notice all of the previous ones are locked. So make sure to get those done before the due date because it will lock them. So you can click on different things, okay, to work on. Notice though some of these topics even are locked. So if we click on the button, we see, oh, well it's locked until we do a previous topic. So we'd have to click on this one and do that one first. But we can go through and do any of these that we choose to that aren't locked, of course, like we said. Okay, so next is how to review. Of course, click on the review button, right? That will only pull up the topics that you have completed, however. So that's another good reason to make sure you complete all of your topics each week, so that you can review them for tests, quizzes, and the like. Okay, you can choose anything in here. If, let's say, we know what we want to look for, we can search on a certain word. So let's say factoring. If we click on factor. So if we see, now we only have topics that include factoring. Okay, so we want to practice that. All right, so now if we go to the assignments tab, we will see all of these practice assignments. These are not homeworks. These are just for you to go in and practice different objective types, only one question of each, and it'll grade you kind of almost like you're taking a quiz or a test. It's very similar. That's why they're just practice assignments. They are worth no grade, okay? They do not account for any portion of your overall grade.
Make sure to show any aspects that could be confusing within the course, especially if there's such things like this where you have practice assignments, but they're not accountable towards your grade at all. Definitely make sure to show those aspects so that there's no confusion throughout the course, or that you can correct things early on before it can make a big impact on a student's grade.
So do those if you choose to. If you don't choose to do them, it will not affect your score. Next, if we go down further, now all of these are past due, so that's why they're showing up as black, okay? But we see here we have all these different assignments. Quizzes will show up here, as we can see. They will be take-home quizzes, okay? You will do those kind of where you want with no password or anything that. You have about always 45 minutes for a quiz, and you have one attempt. So make sure you know what you're doing before you start it. Then, if you want to look through the assignment to see what you got wrong, that's another good way to study for tests, is looking back at the old quizzes. So you have to wait until after the due date, and then you go to the assignment list, as we are, and click on your score. Now notice I can't click on this 0. So you have to have taken the assignment to be able to review it. So that's another good reason to make sure to watch your due dates so that you take everything. All right, then you can kind of view a calendar. All right, so it's not very good right now because everything is kind of already due, right? But it is something that you can look at. Then the grade book. So the grade book will not be exactly correct, okay? Because just the percentages and things don't filter over as well into ALEKS as they do in a grade book from the syllabus. But notice you can filter it, so you can just look at objectives or quizzes or tests or any of the type. Let's just look at tests, and you can view them by date range, all, last month, last week, so on. So we see here we have tests, and retake tests and so on. Okay? So it will also show the weight of the group, but like I said, this is not completely 100% correct from the syllabus. Okay, so from there, we can view reports. That's a good way of seeing kind of how each week is going for the different objective groups. So if we click in that middle view full report, that will show you kind of how many topics you have remaining each week. Okay? So we notice, obviously, since I just started this account, right, I've not done so well because I've not done anything this entire semester. So you can also view the textbook in here. The ebook version will pop up and load, and you can then click around into all the different chapters and such from there. Okay, so now tests. We've talked about homework, the practice review assignments that are not worth grades, the quizzes, and now let's talk about tests. So tests are not taken at home. They are taken at a on-campus testing center, or if you're not able to make it to one of the on-campus testing centers, generally on Boca Raton campus, then you can get it approved to do it at an off-campus testing site. That needs to be approved 3 weeks in advance. So that needs to happen pretty soon if you want it to happen for this first test. Okay? So I would, if I were you and you're not going to be able to make it to the Boca Raton campus for that first test or any of the tests, go ahead and email me and we'll get that process started. All right, but for those of you that will be taking it on Boca Raton campus, I will always kind of let you know when you'll be able to schedule them. You will have a 2-day window where you can choose kind of which time to take it based on the availability of the testing center. And I will let you know when those appointments become available. They start a week before the tests begin and open up. So you'll need to schedule them and bring an ID, school ID specifically, with you every time you go over for a test. Then I will post a link, but let's go just to the FAU website and get there as if we didn't have a link. So let's just search on the testing center. So testing and evaluation, we see here. Now, if we're here, let's go down, we're in e-learning. So this is for online classes. That's what we are. Registration information. This is the information here. Make sure to read all the kind of instructions. You have to arrive 15 minutes prior to your testing time to kind of log in, register, put away things, and so on. Okay, then to schedule your exam, let's see, you can click on the campus. See, we do have some at other campuses, Davie campus and Jupiter campus, if those are better availability for you. So click on your campus, then go through and choose. So we are, where is it? E-learning Boca Raton campus. Then choose an exam. I'm going to choose one of my, well, I don't have one that's right now, but our course ID would show up here as MAC 1140, okay? Then you'll choose a date, choose a time, kind of register yourself who's taking the exam, your email, last name, first name, then the exam guideline acknowledgement. So I agreed to follow the above guidelines, add to cart. It does not cost anything to take these tests, okay? So if you choose the wrong type of thing here, some of them cost money, all right? Our tests do not cost any money. So make sure to choose the correct choice. Okay, so then from here, let's see, we talked about Canvas, we talked about Alex and its homework, and quizzes, and then tests and how to schedule them. The last thing is if you have questions. Of course, always feel free to email me. You can do that either straight through Canvas here in inbox, and then you can choose compose new message, and then choosing from there, or you can send it to the email in the syllabus and go from there. Another thing that you can do is by kind of, if it's a kind of course-wide question, you can post it as a discussion. So we can add a discussion here. You have this option too. Make sure to title it and then put in your question here. And then you can kind of choose some of these different settings and such from there. Okay.
It's a good thing to include is how to contact you and how to ask questions, of course, in case maybe they didn't understand something about the introduction, or you just didn't cover something they want to ask you about.
So that's where a good way to post questions and such would be. If you do have any questions, like I said, feel free to email me or post them in the discussion board. As always, have a great semester and good luck.
So now that we've discussed the video example, let's now have a post survey. So, what do you think the most important thing or things you learned are? Would you use these ideas in your courses in the future? Was there something you wanted to learn about but didn't? Was there something you would do differently in your courses from what we showed in this presentation? So let's take 3 minutes and answer these questions. Okay, so I hope you learned and can take lots of different things from this presentation, and will please let me know about any changes that you think I should make or what you liked and appreciated from this presentation. Thank you for watching and listening, and I hope you can take this forward into your courses. Here are my references. I used the book from our course. Thank you very much.